Number 1. So, I live in a small town. It's pretty innocent here. I'm a pizza boy, and I was on a regular delivery to what was a fairly normal part of the housing in town. As I was arriving, I noticed a man on the sidewalk, hunched over, and I thought to myself, man, he's drunk already, and it's only 4 p.m. Just a few houses down from there, I parked, and I made my way to the address. As I was walking up, a few cop cars flew by me towards that man on the sidewalk, and I proceeded to knock while looking over at the cars. I ever so slowly turned my head back to the door that I was knocking on, and that's when I saw that there was a smear of blood on it. I further scanned the door, and a little farther down, there was more blood, literally everywhere. It was pooling down the steps and making a trail to that hunched over man. Immediately after I noticed this, a woman in an SUV speeds by, yelling, "Get the fuck out of there." So I just drop the pizzas and I book it down the street. A little later after that, more officers arrive on the scene. I go up to a couple of them and I ask them what happened. It turns out that the dude had knocked on the door not even moments before I arrived, and the man who answered just stabbed him and ran. He must have been waiting for me to deliver the pizza, and then he was going to attack me. That ruined my day, for sure. Number 2. I must have been 16 or 17 when this happened. My parents had an extremely old refrigerator that had been rigging for a while. Finally, they decided it was time to break down and buy a new one. They went and picked out a new fridge at a local appliance store and set up a delivery for a few days later. I'll never understand why, but my dad decided to have the fridge delivered on a day when neither of my parents or my brother would be home. Just me. He also felt it wise to tell the people delivering it that he wouldn't be home, but his daughter would be. So, the day of delivery arrives, and there's a knock at the door. I look out of the window to confirm that it is indeed the delivery guys, and it was, so I open the door. These guys were total skeesburgers. I think they only had about 7 teeth between the two of them, and they both looked like they hadn't showered or washed their clothes in a month of Sundays. So as I said, I opened the door, and the pair of them just kind of leered at me for a second. Then one of them says, "There she is." And the other responds, "Yep." They then proceed to kind of chuckle for a few seconds before attempting to come into my house without the fridge. Luckily, I had preemptively asked my boyfriend to come over and wait with me. Before the creeps crossed the threshold, my knight in shining armor rounded the corner and said, "Oh, good, the fridge is here." The goons then reluctantly went to their truck to get the fridge and installed it, all the while muttering and cursing under their breath with scowls on their faces. TLDR, I was almost raped by the cast of Deliverance. Number 3. I work at a restaurant and I cover many roles, my favourite of which being delivering the food, since it allows me a chance to engage people and use my personality to make tips. Last summer, we had a tough time finding full-time delivery drivers who could pass a drugs test, so about 80% of my time was spent on the road, and quite a few deliveries of mine were to local college campuses. I took an order for a young man who wanted to buy a meal for his girlfriend. He gave me her name and what dorm she resided in. He paid for the pizza with his credit card, and the phone call was pretty much a standard delivery request. Things did get weird though, when I showed up at the dorm, and the girl was nowhere to be found. Her RAs told me she wasn't in her room, and eventually one of the other girls in the building told me she was in class. I called the guy's phone number to tell him, and he just blew me off. No big deal though, because he'd already paid for the food. So really, all I'd lost out on was a tip, and some time out of my day. A few days later, this guy calls up again and places an order, same deal. So I ask him if he's sure his girlfriend is there this time, and he replies that yes, he is positive that she is in her dorm. So I make the food and I drive over to the campus. The girl isn't waiting in the lobby like she said she would be, so I have an RA run up to her room to go and get her. The girl makes her way down eventually, and then tells me that she didn't make an order. I tell her it's no problem because her boyfriend ordered for her, and I read her his name off of the credit card receipt. This girl then loses her shit and starts having a panic attack. Apparently, she did not have a boyfriend, and the guy in question had been stalking her since high school and had somehow followed her to another state where she wanted to attend college. She had no idea how he found her or figured out where she lived, and she was deeply upset that he now knew exactly when she was in her building and when she wasn't. I tried to calm her down, but an RA saw her freak out and called campus security, who I then had to deal with for the next hour. The guy who placed the order would not answer any of my calls this time. A week goes by with no word from that creep, until we finally get a call from him, wanting us to deliver more food, and this time he asked if one of us would pick up some flowers for her as well. I put him on hold, and I grab our GM, who then informs him we will no longer be accepting any orders that he places, and that the police will be notified if he tries to harass anyone using our store again. This was about a year ago, and he hasn't called back to place an order since our GM scared him away. However, we would get orders placed through the internet for this girl, with creepy messages for her on them, for months. We deleted the orders every single time, but that bastard was very persistent. Update. So at work tonight, my GM came in to help out during a late night rush, and I asked him about this. He has no clue if the girl was ever able to press charges against him for anything, but someone who used to work for him at a different store knows the creeper. Apparently, the guy ran out of cash and had to move back out of state and into his parents' house. This was all a couple of months after the whole incident. I guess the reason we got the orders placed online instead of over the phone was because this guy had to move out of state and he didn't have a cell phone. Either way, he was a long way away from the girl, and I assume she was able to finish college in relative peace. Number 4. I used to work at a Pizza Hut on a military base, and so the tips were really good. I was invited all the time to go and have a drink with soldiers, get hit on by their slutty army wives, but generally just chat and make good money. One night, I was on a roll. I made about $5 $10 tips in 3 hours, and it was near the end of the night, so it was just me and one other driver. I got the last delivery. So, I drive off to this housing, which, ironically, was on the other side of a fence of the ghettos of the town right off the base. I go up to the house, and it's around 1 AM. The dude, seemingly drunk, invites me in. I've played this game before. Be kind, be nice, make $5 plus and bounce. but Lady Luck had left me this time. The dude started talking about how his wife had been cheating on him the whole time he was gone. He was extremely distraught. I try and console him. He signs his credit card receipt, and I was about to walk off. And then it happened. He asked me if I believed in God. I'm agnostic, so I said no, not really. He said that God was a fucking joke, but that we had both better hope he exists and likes us. Why? That's when I turn around to see the dude with a revolver against his head. He pulls the trigger. Click. Then he points it at me. Click. The fucking guy was playing Russian roulette with our lives. At this point, I break the screen door and I haul ass out of there. I phoned up the MPS as I drove off. I never did find out if he was successful in killing himself. Number 5. I was working at a well-known pizza chain as a delivery driver during my college years. Well, the drivers had started to get sloppy about banking their cash between deliveries. I admit, on busy nights, I did too sometimes. So, customers started to notice us with big wads of bills whenever we made change. One night, I made a delivery to a trailer park. The lights in the trailer are out, so I go up and I knock on the door to confirm that they're out before I leave. This guy, with stringy long hair and a beard, comes around from the back and calls me over, saying he ordered the pizza. So, I follow him out back. As soon as I turn around the corner, he stabs at me with a hunting knife like Norman Bates. I drop the pizza, my left arm now pretty useless. At this point, I don't even feel the pain. Without even thinking, I grab his wrist with my right hand, digging my thumb in below his palm, and I smash his forehand against the corner of the trailer. Then, I run the fuck back to my car, and I drive to the nearest gas station, with the knife still in my shoulder. The clerk calls me an ambulance. When I get to the hospital, the cops are there. While the doctor is inspecting my shoulder, I give the cops a brief explanation as to what happened, as well as the order slip, which had the address. I then had to go into surgery to repair some ligaments which had been cut. The cops caught him a couple of days later. All of the hospitals had been told to keep an eye out for him. It turns out that I hurt his hand pretty bad. He tried to fix it himself, and it got infected. It must have hurt like fuck. It was a pretty rock-solid case, seeing as they had his fingerprints on the knife that he left in my shoulder. Hi guys, Lazy here, and thank you so much for listening to these stories. I hope you enjoyed them. I know I did. I found them quite freaky actually. I think it's easy to overlook the inherent danger in being called over to a stranger's house to deliver food or whatever, and not really knowing what they have planned for you, or actually, being home alone and not knowing what the delivery person has planned for you either. Either way, let's hope none of us ever find ourselves in situations like these ones. How about you guys? Do any of you have any strange delivery stories that you want to relay to me? I'd love to hear about them, so leave them down in the comments below. I'll make sure to read them. And you never know, I might include them in a future video. So it's always good to leave a comment and let me know anyway. Or you can email them to me at lazymasquerade@gmail.com. Subscribe and join the Lazy Legion. Make sure to check out Anthony's artwork via the links in the description below. And you'll hear from me again very, very soon. Until then guys, stay spooky. And remember, the best things happen in the dark.